You are now entering Paleo Radio.
Welcome to Paleo Radio with your hosts Jeremiah Bannister and Joe Elder.
Welcome to the late night extravaganza, as always. I am Joe Elder.
I'm Jeremiah Bannister.
And this is Paleo Radio. We've done it again.
Yeah.
Angela introduces us, but we still introduce ourselves. I think it's the right thing to do. It's proper etiquette.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt to just do it twice.
It doesn't.
Yeah, just to remind people again, like twice in 10 seconds who you are. I think it's a good thing. I think it's all right.
It is. Well, hey, man, what have you been up to?
Oh, yeah, what have I been up to? I have endured over the last couple days the throes, right? The gnashing of teeth from the outrage brigade.
Sure.
I have. And let me say this. I want to qualify this. Some of it I understand. Some of it I don't. Some of the people I've had to deal with are reasonable. The rest of them are saying that I'm a racist Nazi.
Yeah.
And that my wife is a Nazi lover. A half Asian one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to get to that.
Oh, that's going to be crazy fun.
But, and this is what we're going to talk about, too, that I'm sure it had to be tied to or is being attempted to be tied to what went on this weekend, which was an awful event in American history.
Absolutely terrible, vile, despicable.
Yes.
Yeah.
1 dead, 19 injured after a car plows into protesters in Charlottesville. This is in Virginia, obviously.
Yeah, so massive problems going on in our country dealing with race right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, huge.
It says 1 person was killed and 19 others injured Saturday when a car plowed into a group of protesters in downtown Charlottesville, Virginia, hours after police broke up violent confrontations ahead of a scheduled rally for white nationalists. James Alex Fields Jr., who is 20 of Maumee, Ohio, was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, 3 counts of malicious wounding, and 1 count of failing to stop after an accident that resulted in a death. Mm-hmm. This is insane. The FBI and the Department of Justice said Saturday that they would be opening an investigation into the deadly crash. In a statement, Attorney General Jeff Sessions said violence and death in Charlottesville strike at the heart of American law and justice. The FBI has been supporting state and local authorities throughout the day. U.S. Attorney Rick Mountcastle has commenced a federal investigation and will have the full support of the Department of Justice. Justice will prevail.
And Trump came out with a statement. In fact,
yes, he did.
Yeah, it was interesting, actually, wasn't it, Joe?
Yeah, I think it took him way too long, and I think he got goaded into it, but he did it. He finally named some names, which is something people have been calling for, and I'm glad he did. He called out he said the KKK. He said, what was it all? He said the KKK. He said, did he say Nazis?
He may have said Nazis. I don't know. I don't have the exact
I'll
transcript. We have to get our
up.
minions on this.
We'll get exactly.
Snap,
but he
snap.
did.
Snap,
he did
snap.
call. He did call some people out by name. Now I know he didn't say white nationalists, but he did talk about white supremacists. He did say that, which is a good thing. I'm glad he did.
We need a president who can do that.
We do. We need one, and I know maybe this is picking for too much, but we need one who does it the first time around.
Yeah.
We need one that reacted like the mayor of Charlottesville when that happens, I believe.
Yeah. I'm curious, here's the thing. I didn't even know that was going on. I didn't get the memo from all my white nationalist buddies.
Yeah.
I didn't get the Nazi memo somehow from the Stormfronters. And so I'm brutally honest, I had no idea. I didn't even know that it happened until you and I talked on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
The day after.
The day after. And that was, of course, after a whole bunch of notifications that kind of blew my mind. I had no idea what was going on. I'm like, where is this coming from? What is happening right now?
Yeah. And so, yes, this is put together by a bunch of these different groups. You've got kind of a hodgepodge of your nationalist groups, your alt-righty groups, your Confederate groups, your Nazi groups, neo-Nazi groups, your militia groups. All these different ones, they were all there. Do they have any idea on the numbers? Have you seen anything regarding how many people actually went?
I don't know how many actually were there or how many people came there that came to as counter-protesters. I haven't seen any of the numbers so far. I know that the first night it was a tiki torch assembly which is like ironic and scary at the same time.
Did you see their faces?
I did.
Yeah, their faces are like super strident.
Yes.
Like they're really, really intense warriors.
And they, when they were marching, when they marched to that statue, they were chanting things like blood and soil and you will not replace us.
Wow.
And then when they encircled a group of, I don't know if they were Antifa protesters or if they were just counter protesters, small band of people that were around the statue and they came with their tiki torches. Mm-hmm. This is Friday night. Encircled them. And then violently abdicated them from the statue. And then there's a video of quite a group of people giving some Nazi salutes and Sieg Heils and that sort of thing and chanting White Lives Matter. And that was the primer to Saturday, which got even just flipping crazier, which was when they came into Charlottesville during the day.
And that's what the picture, of course, the pictures of people getting blown over. I mean, cars going through. Yeah, cars going through, people flying.
Yes.
Over the hood, all over the place. In fact, I found out about that from, what am I starting to call him, man? Disingenuous Dan.
Yes.
Disingenuous Dan Errol. That guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one who actually notified me of the pictures of it because he asked if I was okay with that.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he asked if I was okay with that, but I'm obviously not.
No.
Obviously, that's some garbage. Yeah, seeing people flying over cars. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever shared anything remotely close to that and said, dude, dope.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good deal.
No, not happening.
But the person that did pass away, her name was Heather Heyer, which, it just sucks, man. She's a 32-year-old woman. She was crossing the street. Said 5 of the injured were listed in critical condition, the worst state, and 4 others were in serious condition. 6 were in fair condition, and 4 others were in decent condition, authorities said Saturday. There's multiple videos of the incident. It was a gray Dodge Charger plowed into the counter-protesters. But again, like you're saying, I mean, we spent 7 minutes laying out the worst of things that happened. But there's also another thing that's going on, which is just the fact that there are broad daylight merging issues of groups that otherwise were not, they at least weren't marching on the streets in this form or fashion 3 or 4 years ago. And I know that this protest in particular, I believe, was a response to the removal of a General Lee statue.
I believe so, yeah. Even in the Wikipedia page, it's got that statue prominently featured in a picture, and I'm scrolling here. You got just today, police chief denies cops were ordered not to intervene in Virginia rally. This is something I believe I asked you. I was like, well, what happened with that? A lot of these videos where you see just major violent interactions, there's a real absence of police officers.
Yeah.
And I said, how did this situation where you have a street where a whole bunch of these white dudes and white nationalist racist dudes walking around with shields and everything going, they were there to fight. So was Antifa. I mean, both groups were there to duke it out.
Yes.
You would think, knowing that before anything even happens, just knowing that is the stuff in the pot, right, that you would make sure that you aren't going to have encounters of that nature. I know that they do that even at a lot of your pro-life, pro-choice rallies now because it can get so crazy.
So crazy.
That oftentimes you need to have police in between because people will go and cross the line.
And I don't know if they got overwhelmed and just the amount of people that were protesting or standing up to it. That could have been as well because I know a lot of people, after what happened Friday night, a lot of people went down Saturday, to make a point. I'm not sure why there was not as much of a police presence in terms of stopping them, but I know there was actually a police presence there. People can go a lot of different ways with it. All I would probably want to extend to say so far is that it would blow my mind if any number over 3 black gentlemen or even 1 could have walked into that area with shields and not been apprehended immediately. Mm-hmm. Immediately.
I say the same.
They wouldn't have even walked shoulder to shoulder.
Yes, you shouldn't. Yeah, if you're bringing shields like that, going shoulder to shoulder, I say the same thing of people who start congregating with long, pointy flagpoles and covering their faces with bandanas and everything else. Those people ain't going outside for a happy, fun time. No. If somebody with a shield, I mean, look, If somebody goes to a place and they've got a metal pole that's pointy and they gather around and they completely surround that person, I'm unsurprised that after seeing that so many times that people start to bring shields. We've said it on the show. This is an arms race of stupidity on both ends of this extreme.
Yeah.
Both sides of this.
Now, the other thing, though, too, is I'm telling you, and this is maybe where we're going to dissect, but I am happy that a much larger crowd descended that Saturday and made it very difficult, very, very difficult for a white nationalist group to think they were going to walk into Charlottesville, Virginia, and stand by a statue with these merged groups of people in the middle of the day. Part of me is not, I don't have a big part of me that views that as detestable. And the violence was nasty.
Yeah, the violence is the only thing. I mean, dude, if people want to protest the daylights out of people and make them feel really uncomfortable, yes. Totally 100%. Violence, bear mace, possible hydrochloric acid.
But if you're going
to, that's a bad thing.
Also, when you're walking in there, and the reason why you're marching is because you're saying my skin color and the people I come with are superior to other people, you've already made a claim to violence. You're saying, I want to reorganize political society in such a way that favors people that look like me over people like you, and I want to use the means of democracy to do it.
I don't believe that's violence. I don't believe that's violence. Otherwise, we'd have people who are religious. It's the same. Everybody who goes in and says, look, I would like to have my beliefs at the expense of your beliefs. My values at the expense of your values based on
and someone says,
identity.
Is it meritable when someone says my values are my skin color to say that holds true with your religion? Or do you just say that's a terrible idea? I don't think we are going to merit that. Yeah. That you go, look at my arm. My arm says I'm a better person than these other people, and I'm going to group up with other people that think it. And we're going to work politically to gain advantages over people to do it. I'm okay with that mentality getting squashed.
Yes.
Quickly.
Me too. I'm just not okay with violence. I'm not okay with changing definition of violence in a way that, look, if we want to go down that kind of violence, which that is a Dan Arrow concept. That's a concept that says, look, you're committing violence by your beliefs on that. If that's true, everybody's going to be getting butts kicked. There's a lot. That's kind of how beliefs in politics work.
Do you think, but part of the belief system of that group is violence already, though. We can't act like Nazism is not a peace. They don't do it by way of peace. Their theory is a violent theory as well. So the question, the other counterpoint to this is, I go there peacefully. I go there peacefully to protest, and I'm there, and the group presses through my group. That's the choice of them, and it gets violent. Did I engage in violence? Did I go down there for violence? How did that work? I mean, I didn't go down there to strike them. But the other concept of this too is, let's not pretend like Nazism isn't violent. Straight up.
Yes, I totally agree 100%. Yes,
white nationalism to that degree is violent.
Oh my gosh, I totally agree 100%. I just need, and I've been sounding this alarm now since the election was going on, because I was watching videos of violence happening at rallies, both inside and outside. I was watching videos of leftists that were throwing bricks at faces of gay Mexican people for wearing MAGA hats. I saw that. Yeah. I've seen women with eggs thrown at them as they were shoved into corners, and I've seen people completely surrounded and poked with metal flagpoles, real long metal flagpoles. I've seen that kind of thing. And same thing with this. I mean, I hate having to bring this up. It's not a surprise someone like this was there, but Baked Alaska is a real guy. Okay, Baked Alaska is a real dude. He's a guy who used to be over at, Gawker and over at BuzzFeed, I think, both places. Now he is a white nationalist, right? For all intents and purposes, a white nationalist. He gets what seems to be pepper sprayed in the face, but it is quite likely bear mace or something even worse, and may result in permanent damage in his eyes. Where a ruling came down in federal court regarding the activists that were outed by James O'Keefe videos, and I think that they even pled guilty eventually to this, of plotting to use acid against people. That's on video.
But
and it's real, and people ain't talking about it.
But don't get angry at people for not sympathizing with the white nationalists over the girl that got killed by the car.
Well, ain't nobody doing that in this room.
I'm saying it.
Yeah.
I'm saying it in terms of where we should draw our focus from the issues. Stick around, folks. We'll be back. 616-656-1680 to call in.
Paleo Radio? Join the club. Support our work by visiting patreon.com/Paleo Radio today.
Back to Eagle and Dragon.
We're talking about ACLU and whether or not they're smart to be defending people's right to protest, people like Milo or people like white nationalists, because they do. They find themselves in that firing line oftentimes, and they say, yes, we actually do defend their right to gather together. Their ideas are absolutely terrible. They're repugnant, but that's true of a lot of different groups as well. They still have the right to gather.
Yeah.
That's still,
Name
as far as our
three
Constitution,
name
it's
three with
inalienable.
ideas as bad as that are on the street marching today.
On the street marching today?
Yeah.
I don't have any today. I don't have any like, hey, there's people marching on the street. I don't even know how many people were marching in this particular thing compared to how many people were against it.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a good number to have. Most of the time they have those numbers pretty quick, mostly like National Mall type stuff. This isn't obviously that.
I'll have to look at. I think the first one on Friday night was in the thousands. I think it was like 1,500 or something like that.
Yeah, it's like half the size of the most recent Reason rally. I mean, that's not even half the size. I mean, let's say Reason rally is about 5,000. You're about a third.
Yeah,
roughly. So I mean, look, that's 1,000-something people that's showing up to do that, and I would say that. Going out publicly marching on the streets in this country, we don't have anything else like that. Except for the people who go on the streets and stop entire highways, throw bricks at people's faces, shove women into corners and throw eggs at their faces, and to pull people out of cars and beat the crap out of them.
And now
real people
now
too.
get into cars and drive into the crowd that is in there and kill a woman and injure 19 others. That's added to that group again. This
has been predicted on this show for almost a year and a half, saying that as soon as people committed to using the term Nazi, I said you can't pull it back. This is going to go in that direction. And for a little while, I was kind of playing the game, and I got to be cautious even now. It's saying to people, you're a real boy, I oughta guy, right, kind of thing. Because I did that before and said, boy, if this was really true, if people really felt that Donald Trump was an actual fascist, if he was a real Nazi, you would have violence on the streets. Mm-hmm. Well, we kind of started having more violence on the streets. And that's qualitatively violence when people surround cars of individuals that are complete randos, and you start slamming on the windows and jumping on the hoods of a car, screaming racism to somebody that you don't know.
But I mean, in a way, though, what you're implying is that Nazism's like Beetlejuice, and people said it 3 times, and the Nazis showed up because people with swastikas giving Nazi salutes were there. Like this isn't an ambiguous thing. That's extremely well documented about the group that was there.
Yeah.
So the question isn't that Nazism isn't a real thing and that that we're calling people that aren't Nazis. We're talking about people that were seriously saluting and coming down there for real. So the point is just saying that did those people come because liberals called them out of the woodwork?
Yes.
Or you believe that more than you believe they were emboldened by the changing political tide?
Yes, because I've been studying this for too long.
Then how do guys like Mike Cernovich and Steve Bannon, there's no coincidence between people like Mike Cernovich having close access to a White House administration, or guys like Alex Jones now, and men like Steve Bannon in the White House, and that idea and rhetoric, while they may not hold these ideas to be exactly true, that level of different opinion hasn't swayed it to a point that engaged more people to become more active.
Clarify what you mean by that. What
I'm saying is that you have a guy who before he was in the White House has said himself that he gave a platform to the alt-right.
It's not true. You got to peel that back. Number one.
Okay, so Steve Bannon's not an alt-right guy.
Yes, but see, don't do that. If you want to make a claim about it, and I contest that claim, let me just contest it.
Then contest, and we'll move to the next one.
Bannon, if someone says yes, that serves as a platform to a group. That is not the same thing as saying I've constructed it in order to serve it as that. There were places before, there were places that were platforms for the alt-left, for the violent left. In fact, HuffPo is a platform for Dan Arrell and the violent left. And if HuffPo is a platform for them. Uncritical.
Sure, no, that's fine. And let's play this out then. So you wouldn't see a connection in Ariana Huffington becoming part of the White House administration, and then all of a sudden leftists get a little more emboldened on the street. You wouldn't think that's a tie-in?
They did. when people's political philosophy, when people that share that, like if I'm a leftist and people who are leftists that share my values get proximately close to the White House, I will definitely be emboldened. That's just going to happen, no matter where it goes.
That's why my theory about the right's the same thing. Steve Bannon gets into the White House. Steve Bannon's got different views that have changed in a way. Steve Bannon emboldens the group of extremist right to become more active. I mean, I don't believe the Beetlejuice theory of Nazism. I don't believe Nazi, oh my God, here they are.
I think that's a little bit disingenuous to insinuate that I do either. And so to talk about it like, well, the alternative is either one view or Beetlejuice. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that, look, this is a long time coming. This is something that has fluctuated and gone back and forth. It's ebbed and flowed even before Pat Buchanan's culture warrior speech. This stuff has been going in a specific direction for a while. They've been getting bigger for a while now because on the other side, they feed off of each other. I think it's symbiotic. I really do. That these two extreme groups, one group makes it so that and this is kind of playing into the thing on Twitter, the thing that I'm in trouble for, the tweet that I'm in trouble for, to say that there are people who, without arguing this, and I have yet to have anyone specifically state this, but I've had everyone, the way that they're arguing is as if white people are not able to defend themselves from unfair or false accusations. By definition, that's the word I used in that case. And I'm saying if you have a growing segment of the population that on the daily has no problem indiscriminately bashing certain groups and then says you can't defend yourself from even unfair criticisms definitionally, and the people who say that, those people are Nazis. That's the culture that the people who are Nazis, that's what they're feeding off of each other. And I say, yes, in that sense, it doesn't take 3 times to mention. It's not a Candyman situation. It's not a Beetlejuice situation. It's a situation that this has been going on for a long time, and these groups have polarized worse and worse and worse and antagonized now to such a point that I don't know how to stop either side of that.
I don't think that all happened without the merits of the change that we had politically, the massive change we had politically between presidents and national policy and the direction the country is going. That I think has heavy implications on the differences that we saw in the sparking of the political group. So I'll merit you that it's been going the same direction, but that's still not without notice that it has drastically changed yet to a worse state, and a quick one. And I'm telling you, I'd be completely on the side of this argument in the same exact way if it turned out the exact opposite way, where someone who was more of an extreme left person, or even if they were so vague we didn't know if they were extreme left or not, but the people they put around them were people that we knew wrote for very extreme left-wing magazines and it was worrisome, right? I would be just as worried about that. And I would also say that if that is what emboldened a lot of people that are far left to be marching on the streets to try to get more political recognition, I would say that makes sense. I just don't think that's much of a stretch to say.
I'm emboldened every time in this situation because on the streets, and it was funny the way we were talking about it yesterday, even possibly making a GIF standing behind you looking like Little Mac with a commie on one side and a fascist on the other,
yes.
And it's just left hand, right hand uppercut,
yes.
That kind of thing. That's the world I'm in right now. I look around and say, I don't like either of you suckers. I don't.
No.
I don't like either of you.
But
I think you're both terrible, and I just simply, and I guess this is where you and I do disagree, is that I look at it and say, yes, it is a huge problem. On the other hand, I really, really deep in my heart believe, and I think for great reason, that the problem on the left is a massive, massive problem. And
Sure.
It's what makes it worse is that unlike the problem on the right, it's not being rightly defined and understood and condemned by people who traditionally have been more reasonable in the way that they deal with political economy and political opponents.
I would agree. I think you're exactly right. I think that currently in the time, it has to do with who's closer to the levers, obviously. I'm more concerned with right-wing nationalism because there's more concern with how much degrees of power right now right-wing nationalists have. There's not many people that are hard lefties that are successfully working in politics, let alone people that are working in the administration. And I think it's, from what I'm saying, the challenge would be issued here, but I'm pretty willing to defend it, that people like Steve Bannon are pretty right-wing. And people like Mike Pence are pretty right-wing, but in a different cast style.
Yeah,
but still
different
the same.
style, right.
But it's because of proximity to power. If there was some modern day communist person who had run and got the presidency, or a Democrat won it but gave the cabinet to somebody like that, I would be talking about my concerns more with the extreme left. But
Well, didn't Van Jones say stuff about it wasn't Mao, was it? Or was it Mao?
maybe so.
Was it Chairman Mao? Like one of the books he really thought you should read? It was one of the
He was
Mao
talking
books.
about, was it Mao's book?
It was something
about one of his revolutions.
And I remember Glenn Beck shared it and was like, "Look, you got this crazy maniac. I mean, he's hardcore for folks like Mao and hardcore for folks like Saul Alinsky and the like." And so, I mean, look, I mean, that is pretty hardcore. People again, they underestimate. I think they pick their poisons and they say that, well, this particular poison, yes, is pretty bad. But I think that's a proximity thing too. If it's closer to your, the person making the claim, if it's closer to their side of it, that group that's the extreme one isn't as bad as the extreme one on the other side.
But these are again, you're putting these in normal contexts that aren't normal anymore. The group that's in power is not a normal group by any means. We can say that, right? What expectations do we have that they will continue normalcy, or that they have?
Like, what do you mean by that?
Like half of most departments still don't have elected officials yet. That's a good example. They're way off on that. That we've had a circus for who's leading the country in terms of all these people. It's like The Apprentice.
Now back to Joe and Jeremiah.
Welcome
I'll tell
back.
ya.
Go ahead,
No,
sir.
no,
I'm so
it's
sorry.
jinxed.
How'd I
It's
do
jinxed,
that?
Joe. We can't talk.
Take her away, sir.
We can't talk for the rest of the show. Yeah. We'll see how long. Yeah, that's not going to happen. No, not going to happen at all. So I want to thank Diane for tuning in right now. We love Diane and all the listeners right now that are tuned in. You can listen on 95.3 FM, 1680 AM. There's a couple other AM FMs I won't mention. And, of course, if you're on your computer, you can listen by going to publicrealityradio.org. And if you're on your phone or an iPad or any kind of tablet, you can't do that, okay? You have to actually go to an app. And what's the name of that app, Angela? You had a... You can use TuneIn. TuneIn.
So
The
that's one to get to.
TuneIn app. And look up Public Reality Radio. Look up WPRR. And you can, of course, do that. Also, I have to let people know right now, I'm pretty positive that if you go to patreon.com/PaleoRadio, that you're going to be able to see the most recent, or not the most recent, one of the most recent episodes of our show. We made it available. It was the first time that we were able to make one available first for our patrons. We love every single one of them. We're grateful that you've stood by us through thick and thin. And we want to make a prediction again. So real quick, if you want to support us, and we know you do, it's cheaper than, what do we say? It's cheaper than a cup of coffee or a Sunday paper, that kind of
Either
thing.
or.
Either
Whatever one you like, it's cheaper than the one you don't that you should pay for.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh. But Twitter, bro.
I was just going to say, you're on the naughty list, aren't you?
I'm on the naughty list right now.
You've been gnawed.
And there's part of me, look, I'm divided, Joe, because there's part of me that says I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings by minimizing this. On the other hand, there is part of me that says, oh, no, I very much want to hurt certain people's feelings very badly. I think that some people, and I feel badly to even say that because that's just not me. But it's not often that somebody's called me a Nazi a bunch of times in a day, or that I've had people tell me that I need to F myself with a razor blade until I die.
Yeah.
Or that my wife is a Nazi lover and sympathizer and an enabler. You know, all of this sort of thing. I mean, that's tough, man.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think honestly it's the life of being a public figure.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's
My African...
Sadly, yes, it is. It is the nature of having a Twitter account in 2017, and I honestly think you're a victim of timing.
You know what? Yes.
You
Yes.
You wrote about something that was a contentious issue. Probably would have been a contentious issue already, but one we were already planning on discussing on the show, and it had discussed for about a week before that particular tweet was posted. But then it was linked to inappropriately and incorrectly, I think, to the goings-on of the weekend, and that's when people got very agitated and were primed and ready to go and unleashed. I really do. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, and you know, for people who don't know, you can follow me over at PaleoCrad. I encourage you more than that, though. Go to PaleoRadioShow. That is the one. That is, and we've been having a lot of fun with that recently, haven't we?
Oh yeah, PaleoRadioShow is fantastic.
A whole bunch of fun, you know. But I posted an article called "The College Fix," and it was talking about a course at Stanford. And it kind of runs like a lot of the courses that people are familiar with in racial studies and ethnic studies and things like that. Even healing racism seminars. That's something that happened at our school. Very, very similar, the curriculum, the outline, the layout, kind of what they're going for. And they were talking about it and saying that some of the things, among others, is abolishing whiteness. You know, and talking about racial issues ranging from privilege to all the other things that are being even just contemporaneously talked about right now, right, with things going on in our political economy. On the other hand, what I said, and this is really what got me in trouble, and I'll let the listeners decide for themselves. You can decide if you think that I am a raging Nazi, okay, and we'll talk about this for a minute because I think that some people have brought up decent points and some people haven't. So I'm going to go ahead. Let's find this here. I want to make sure that I'm reading the right thing right here. Okay. First of all, let me say this first. I tweeted something. This is August 11th, and I said this: I don't blame theists for being disinterested or turned off by the atheist community. Dogmatically SJW, rabidly partisan, no churches, no kids. I know you and I disagree on some of the latter two specifically.
Yeah, specifically, I don't want a church for my atheism.
Right, you don't want a church for your atheism. But I said I'm not surprised that theists are disinterested or turned off by this. And specifically the dogmatically SJW or rabidly partisan. The very next thing I wrote was this. And as I said, if you are interested to call, if you think that I'm missing something, right? And again, this was posted before even knowing there was a rally. It was posted before the rally. It was posted before any violence took place at any rally. It was posted early. Here we go. White Americans have a right to defend themselves, their race, and their cultures from denigration, especially from targeted abolition. And I understand why people would read that and right out of the gate go, whoa. On the other hand, I would really hope that they would look at the word denigration. It means to unfairly criticize. And so what I'm saying is white Americans have a right to defend themselves from unfair criticisms. Cultures have a right to defend themselves from unfair criticisms. And all of those things have a right to defend themselves from targeted abolition. And I guess it comes down to this, and this is something that, you know, with my background and stuff that went on with the Healing Racism seminar, one of the things with that class that was a little bit different was this idea that you needed to really absorb. You needed to listen and absorb. And the idea of challenging or offering a rebuttal to any point to the facilitator was frowned on. And I'm not saying these are the exact same things. Okay?
Yeah,
but
I don't think they are.
But this happened at my college. This was not, and it was put together by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. So this isn't like some, you know, weird thing. And so you say, in those cases, if someone doesn't have the right to offer a rebuttal to a claim that they feel is or believe is unfair, that is a precarious situation to me. Mm-hmm. And now people could say, well, you're guilty of tweeting a truism that's controversial. You know, that like, yes, obviously denigration, if it's an unfair criticism, by definition, you have a right to defend yourself.
Yeah.
A targeted abolition, you do have a right to defend yourself from targeted abolition. Or your people, you and your kind, what that may be, you have a right to do that. And I said, I say that of every group. And I heard somebody say, more than one person, they said, you know, any racist could say that. And I said, there's an element of that that's totally true. Black segregationists say the same thing a lot of my white SJW friends say, right? They echo one another. But I don't accuse my SJW friends of being members of the Nation of Islam. Yeah. I don't accuse them of being in the Black National Party, or the new Black Panther Party. I'm sorry about that. I don't accuse them of that, even though the rhetoric reflects that, and even though the same organization that they look at to talk about hate lists certain groups that way, it also lists the groups like the new Black Panther Party and Nation of Islam. I'm using those specifically.
Yeah. Well, and I think that I think it is a truism. I think it's kind of, I don't know if I have a good analogy for it, but the way I would explain it is, especially when it talks about defending certain things of white culture, demographically, America isn't shared with some of the institutional. Demographically, America's values culturally have shifted from what they've been in a couple of years, just in terms of the different people and different groups that have been in here and in America for quite some time. I really think that the part that's kind of missing from it is just the acknowledgement, too, that it's a persecuted majority. Like, I think that what you're saying is right, but my question is, what is it in relativity to having means of power next to you? Mm-hmm. How persecuted is this specific group? And if the worst level of persecution, I'm not trying to be completely dismissive, because I'm not dismissing that it's a fact. I'm just saying that if the worst kind of persecution, if the idea is that even laws couldn't be made against you very strongly, which is, I think, the case for many people that are in a position of being a mobile white voter, that you have a lot of, just white people in general, whether it's talking about just defending whiteness or anything, we've got a lot of mobility and we've got a lot of association to power, and in terms of,
I don't know. I don't know if I believe all that.
I think much like Christianity, there is a persecuted majority complex amongst a lot of white men still, which is that although there are multiple examples of advantages that there is to be a white man, there are some minor disadvantages, and I can acknowledge them, but I think they are far outweighed by the advantages I get of being a white man in general anyway.
Here's where I disagree. Where I say we found ourselves, and this is a unique thing for me, I found myself at a place where if you say people have a right to defend themselves from unfair criticisms, you're Hitler, you're a Nazi, boy, you're boo-hooing for a team that's not getting busted. Nobody's busting their chops. I had some people, a girl talked to me and was talking about how, you're trying to tell me straight white men are being attacked. And I just answered, and she hasn't responded back to me. I'd love to hear it. And say, I've never heard of this straight white male group you speak of. Please do tell. I'm sure you have many great and wonderful things to say about them. Mm-hmm. Because I can go every single day. And I said this got me in trouble before on Facebook, where I straight up said I'm sick and tired of a constant berating of indiscriminately of groups of people. Because after a while, that kind of sinks into a place where if you say something that's a truism, definitionally true, people who oppose it, it's indefensible. They can't make the argument that people don't have the right to defend from those things. I don't know anybody who's making that case. They've had to shift the goalposts.
I can make a case that the group that is arguing for the right to defend themselves has used in a real case, not if sans philosophic, real applicable. This particular race has used law and subjugation and threat and power and force to stop other groups from having equal power to them and equal mobility to them. And they still, even though this is not as advanced as it used to be, enjoy some residual after effect of that.
that when they perceive it to be my own opinion truly is that when it's reducing from having the platform to having a microphone and being mad that the whole stage isn't yours still. And I'm not saying this is you, but my perception about like abolishing whiteness, am I worried that whiteness is going away in America because of a Stanford class? Hell no, brother.
By the way,
no.
I just need to put this out there. I got a post here from someone saying if you actually care about what the other side means, get off Twitter and talk to someone privately. Not sure if that's an admonition for us, but that's something that I believe in. So, yes, follow it. Good advice.
Yeah, we'll be
back
that.
right after this.
For debates, interviews, or speeches, contact PaleoRadioShow at gmail.com.
You love to hate 'em, you hate to love 'em. You just can't get enough of 'em, you sick freaks. Paleo Radio's on the air.
I gotta say this, and I hope I haven't ticked too many people off. But somebody on Twitter, and I'm not going to say who, I kind of told people, I don't like doing this whole mentioning people's names all the time and dragging them into things. I mean, if you want to see it play out on Twitter, go to Twitter. Check it out, But to sit there and say, people have told me and said, for the tweet that you did talking about white people having the right to defend themselves from that kind of stuff, you really... you should really apologize. And I said, there's a couple problems with this. And I'll list three. Number one is that I have, they said, well, apologize for the timing. There's no way I could have known the future. I don't ogle a magic crystal ball like a lot of these people do who seem to be able to divine from a tweet the heart and mind of other people that they've never met. Not only that, but people saying maybe you should apologize, that maybe you're not talking enough about racial issues. This is something actually, and I will mention this person. This is something Chris Tanner brought up a while back. Chris Tanner from Cellar Door Skeptics. And I said, look, the issues that we talk about, I named them off. I said, these are issues that we discuss on this show, like on the regular. It's part of our brand. I said, this is actually what we do. I said, beyond that, it's weird because... you can mention, and I have, believe me, you can mention things that you've done in your life. You can mention accomplishments and decisions that you made as an editor to go after stories of police racism and excessive use of force by white cops against black people and be the person to out that. Doesn't matter. You could be in an interracial marriage. Doesn't matter. You could you could have your kids going to a school that is overwhelmingly of another race. Doesn't matter. You could be good with all of your neighbors. Doesn't matter. You could do all of those things and more, and it's insatiable. It's totally insatiable. There's nothing I could actually say. And this is sad to me. There's nothing that you can actually say. And the moment that you begin saying anything at all, what would actually satisfy it? It was crazy because there's a girl. It's the last thing I'll say. There's a girl named Jennifer. I'll leave it at that. Jennifer gets on this individual's wall and starts posting about this guy. This guy gets on Facebook and says, look, I'm really bummed out. I knew this guy. I didn't know he was a raging racist Nazi. He doesn't mention who I am. And this girl goes on and gives some good advice and says, you should probably talk to the person.
Yeah.
You should call them. You should talk to them and settle it that way. And he said, who is this? And this guy said, it's Jeremiah Bannister over at Paleo Radio. And I liked her comment.
Yes.
And right after I liked her comment, I saw that I was mentioned in a new comment from her. I refreshed it and boom, wow, she's mentioning me already. Don't like my comment, Jeremiah. You don't have a right to. You've been proven to be a racist and a sexist. Insatiable.
Yes.
Insatiable clowns. Complete freaks. I'm serious. I'm sorry. But this is knee-jerk reactionism to an extreme.
Sure.
To such a point that there's absolutely nothing that you or your half-Asian wife could possibly do to convince people who are virtue signaling the daylights out of them and their lily white friends that you're not a Nazi in disguise.
Yeah.
For crying out loud.
I think there's that. I also think there's the fact that when people get this is absolutely true as well. That as long as we're just mentioning the whole gambit, that just as much as there's that, there is the fact that there are positions that white people take that when they get logically knocked down, they go to the worst arguments that have been made against them, which are that they're Nazis, and say that's what the group's saying. When there's a lot of people that just can very easily and calmly talk circles around some of these ridiculous claims. I'm not talking about yours in general, but this is like I got an out-and-out challenge on this, that what is so scary about ignorant white nationalist views that are hard to debate publicly?
Joe, you've actually shaken hands with me, and we have a show together where you actually argue against a guy who's a nationalist.
We do all the time.
All the time.
But
yes.
But my point of saying that is that it gets to the real heart of a lot of things, which is that you can't get into the idea of changing minds. Now, I'm not trying to sit here and change Jeremiah's mind about everything, no more than you are about mine. But let's be honest, what is conversation other than trying to manipulate the way people are thinking about thinking in terms of how you do it, right? But I think that there's a very important part to this. And I'm not, I know what people are saying, it's ringing in my ears already there. It's like, well, you're condoning Nazism. Well, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be one that thinks I should be debating David Duke. But someone who makes the claim that you made on Twitter is something that can be debated.
Yes.
Something that can be debated without ad hominem, and something that I think can be laid out in a way that's educational for other people. And more importantly, there was, just because of all that's happened over this weekend and how it's just been utterly insane.
Yes.
And how it really, people are starting to side up. I wrote something out. And I'm not gonna go through all of it, but the overall gist of what I was saying is, do we want to let all people who are ignorantly racist, as in they are racist people that don't know that they are, do we want to let all those people, whether they're known or unknown to themselves that they're racist, go to the other side without even trying to convince them not to? Just as an open question. And I'm saying, like, in order to fight racism, we have to engage mildly racist people. And again, David Duke doesn't fit in that category. I don't think Richard Spencer fits in that category. I don't think Richard Spencer is a person that you have intelligent debates with. I think he's proven himself to be out of that category, personally. I think there are other people that could have made it, but not him. Definitely not. But the point is that you have to talk to people that are mildly racist and not acting upon it to pull them off. That's the only way you can reason people away from bad ideas. Yeah. For instance, just like, this is a sports analogy because I'm a jock, I've never seen a referee make a call, even if it's a bad call, and we all know that happens, and see a player run over to him and scream, and the referee kind of touch his head and go, you're right, I'm going to pull back the bad call. You're screaming at me and yelling at me has really made me go introspective and change my opinions. That doesn't happen. No more does it when you call someone an a-hole, make them go, am I really being an a-hole? Or are they going to get defensive? Most people get defensive. It's just the same concept. And I believe that if people have been taught through means of society just soft racism, and I'm talking about the racism where people don't even know or hang around black people, they have just generally bad ideas about them. There are people in the United States that hold these beliefs. There has to be a conversation that's taken place with those people. Or stuff like Charlottesville, Virginia swallows them up because the language cuts the barrier of the middle ground. And I think the middle ground's worth fighting for with my mouth. You know, I think it is using my brain and using words and trying to articulate why we want to get to a different plane. And again, do I think we go down there and try to have a meaningful conversation with the people that marched into Charlottesville? I'm not saying that. But I'm talking about there's a lot of people that are in this weird, ambiguous place between looking around and going, do I want to be part of this Antifa crowd or do I want to be part of this Nazi right group?
Yeah, right.
Or where am I in the middle? And I think most people are in the middle, and I think that ground is the ground that you focus on.
People need to debate it. And look, when I posted that, it was pretty boring, Joe, for a day. I only had Dan Errol, a disingenuous Dan, retweeting it and asking questions, so I had his followers. But the next day, I got Justin Schieber of Real Atheology. He came out. He kind of broke precedent with his otherwise philosophically minded manners and started out just by asking, what the F is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he went on Facebook and wrote, barfs. I sat there and look, did I challenge with a little bit of bravado? Yes, of course. I was thumping my chest. The guy asked me what the F was wrong with me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he put barfs by my post. Of course I'm going to call him out. And not only did I call him out, I called Galen out. The guy, forget how to pronounce dude's last name. Over at Pathio said, yeah, I could not only beat him, but I could beat him if they tag teamed.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm at least willing to go toe-to-toe with you guys if you say, and here's the thing. The whole group of them is, well, I'm not going to give you the time of day, buddy. Fortunate for you, you're not going to have to deal with me. And I'm just like, look, man, I've kind of said bring it. Mm-hmm. I'm the guy saying bring it. Like, and if you go, you're lucky, I'm not going to do anything. And I'm like, no, I really would like you to. Oh, you better watch it, buddy. Why I oughta. And that's the kind of thing. And I have no respect for it. And I say, look, if you think I'm wrong, and apparently some of these folks do. They think I'm real wrong. Mm-hmm. If you think I'm wrong, take me down.
Yeah.
You got shows, you got blogs.
Well, here's one. I think you're wrong on it. I don't think you're right about it. But I'm here in the studio. You know, that's the other thing too, is even about the show and what we do. We've talked about this, where we don't believe we're solving the world's problems in 15-minute segments. We want to talk about these issues, but we're not going to come to the conclusions over one cup of coffee and a nice smooth conversation. Mm-hmm. These things go on and they ebb and they flow and the conversations continue. When things get ugly is when the conversations stop ebbing and flowing. And really, I think that it's a really upsetting time, because there is an issue that's going on in the secular community of people really dividing. But this also is not a big surprise for people that have been listening to our show or knowing what we do or what we're kind of about, where we've been making claims like, is a unified lack of belief in something even a meritable reason to call a group of people a group? I mean, yeah. Where is the United Non-Baseball Card Collecting Club?
Yeah. That was part of this.
The group of imagine the political differences amongst a group of people that don't collect baseball cards. All in one, you collect 200 different people that do not collect them, and see how common they are.
You know, we invite you. Agree or disagree, we'd love to hear your voice.
You are now entering Paleo Radio.
Welcome to Paleo Radio with your hosts Jeremiah Bannister and Joe Elder.
It's the top of the second hour. It's an hour of power here. The 11 to 12 hour, I just made that up. It's a classic.
Yes.
Yeah.
No one's ever thought of that.
No one's ever thought of that. Totally an original off the top of my head, Joe.
There you go.
It's kind of like when I was a kid, man. My cousin Dustin used to always tell me that his sister made up that song, Diarrhea. Diarrhea.
Oh, yeah.
You know what that one is?
Yeah.
Going into third and I felt a turd.
Oh, lovely.
Going into home and it starts to foam, that kind of song.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he totally said his sister made it up. He was lying through his teeth, too.
He probably knew words. He knew a whole lot of words.
Yeah.
He's great with words.
Speaking of great with words, dude, do we have a question of the day today? Are we where are we at on this whole question of the day?
Yes.
Because let me put it this way. Before we ask that question, we got to say this, because this is actually a laborious process. It's kind of like the Bat Cave here. I mean, people, you got to go to Facebook at facebook.com/PaleoRadio. We've got a check mark, totally verified. But you'll see it's kind of like the Bat Cave, a lot of buttons and things around here, things blinking at us.
Movie a shaky.
Yeah, moving a shaky. And I want to say, in reference to this whole question of the night, not question of the day, I take it back. I apologize. We're still in this transitional frame here. We're now a night show, late night. This is what, our third one?
Yeah,
this is number 3?
Third late night,
Yeah, number 3.
Yeah.
So, but what I wanted to say was, if you win, you end up getting to dip your hands into this prize vault, and I have here today, hold on, let me see if I can, where is this thing? I've got it in here somewhere. I've got, 2 books. I've got a book, and I've got 2 cards, okay? The book, give me a second.
Yes.
Yeah, the book is, and this is really cool. Again, we have really clever and smart listeners, I believe. I mean, every single time that people have had a choice from our vault, Most of them have chosen books.
I believe that.
Yeah. So this is actually the first time, I think, that somebody's actually asked for something other than a book, except for we had someone who asked for something to do with Team Tiny Dancer, my daughter. But I have gifts here for the last two people that won that we're sending out, okay? So I brought them to the studio because we have Anchorman cards. Okay, so the movie Anchorman, and he wanted this, the winner for that wanted them to be common cards. I said, there are some from the Secret Stash. There's a couple of them in the Secret Stash, and then there's others that are in the Common Pot. And he said he just wanted two from the Common Pot, and we got to pick them, and so we chose those two. I have them in these really nice these little plastic
those
slips.
Are classy.
Look at these little plastic cards.
Top notch.
Like
preserved.
Preserved. It's the little card holders that you have when you're into collecting cards, like baseball cards or basketball cards or Farrah Fawcett cards and things like that.
Or Anchorman cards.
Or Anchorman cards.
Whatever it may be.
Yeah, so we've got that, but they're tucked away. So not only are they in that soft plastic one, but they're also in a thicker plastic one, to ensure that these Anchorman cards are going to get to you in pristine quality.
Yes.
Make sure to let us know if otherwise. The other one, and this was really cool, was one of the winners went into the book section of our prize vault. We have pictures of it. Went into the book section and found a book that really interested in The Philosophy of Humanism by Lamont.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this is a standard piece.
That's a good one.
It's basically, if you want to know what is the philosophy of humanism, this is kind of the book you go to.
Yeah, it is.
It is. Yes. These are no
Corliss.
jokes. So we have him. What was the one? Another kind of real staple was Cosmos.
Was Cosmos? Yeah.
Yes, that's another one.
And the God Delusion.
And the God Delusion.
We had quite a few.
Yes.
Yes.
Even the one with Shermer. That what was it? The Science of Good and Evil.
Science of Good and Evil. Michael Shermer.
Michael Shermer.
We should see if we should get him on.
Yeah, that'd be
Maybe we
interesting to
could.
have that guy.
Speaking of, though, the vault and getting your hands into the prize vault, I do have a question of the night. It's a good one. It's one that might be a little bit complicated, but folks, again, if you want to call in and take a stab at it, you can, but you cannot use Google to get the answer. You have to use the old noggin, the brain machine. The question is, which common household item, usually found in a kitchen or utility room, did Hamilton Smith invent in 1858?
Which common household item?
Yep, just which common household item did Hamilton Smith invent in 1858? If you have the answer, call in 616-656-1680 and get your hands on the prize vault.
And it's commonly used in the kitchen. It's pretty common.
So, I mean, even if you don't know, you can take a stab.
1858.
1858. That should give some people an idea.
Yes. And what's the number again?
The number is 616-656-1680.
Yes.
Yes.
You have to look. Make sure. Tweet this out to your friends. Maybe your friends know. I mean, you've got Facebook, you got Twitter, you got Instagram. Post that question. Say, question of the night for realsies. I want to win something from the vault. I need it, and I'm freaking the heck out unless I get it. So you have to tag and mention like 50 different people. And just throw it out there. I promise you'll get an answer. And when you do, make sure, once again, call that number. Or those numbers. We'll just throw both of them out there. We'll give you a shot at either one. 616-656-1680 or 616-656-2619.
That's right.
Yes.
In the meantime, we can talk about Ann Applebaum discussing if the AI dystopia is already here.
Have we been waiting to say that name?
Oh yeah.
For I think
she's one of my.
this.
I like her. I've always been. I love me some Ann Applebaum.
Yeah, you love you some Ann Applebaum.
I do.
We need to see about getting Ann on the show.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
I think she'll go rounds with you about Russia.
Oh. Yeah.
It'd be good, but she would be great. She is a fantastic writer.
Well, I'm up to date on the memos. I've started to get those from Moscow again.
There you go. I was going to say, at least
they're coming back.
As long as you're getting your talking points, right?
My talking points are coming.
I love it. So, yes, but this article by Ann Applebaum, this out of the Washington Post, so again, we can't help but note that it is the enemy.
No.
This is maybe the AI dystopia is already here, which was a really interesting article that she wrote. Mm-hmm. She says, what if the threat from artificial life doesn't look or act human at all? What if it's just a piece of computer code that can affect what you see and therefore what you think and feel? In other words, what if it's a bot, not a robot?
And that freaked me out a little when I read it.
Me too.
Right away because for some reason, I've been thinking more abstractly about it. It's a tendency, and not to really kind of boil it down to the bot and say, that's an interesting factoid, especially in the context of the happenings over the last couple years. I mean, that's a big deal. Bots are a big deal. I think probably half of Dan Arrow's fan base is bots.
Maybe so.
I'm sorry for going after
Maybe
that guy
so.
so much. I love you, Dan. I really do want to fight you, but I love you.
Well,
that's why I'm getting bucked.
We all know where Dan stands on the issues.
Yeah, but bots for realsies, bots all around. Remember Bernie Spamders?
Bernie Spamders bots.
Yes.
There's Hillary bots. There's also a big part of and again, we don't want to get into this rabbit hole that you and I always go down, but because this is like the third time, it's almost like we are Beetlejuicing it. But the big issue from intelligence services about how Russia influenced the election was through using bots. And is assumed too. But what Applebaum is writing about is how people have had this kind of false assumption that maybe the AI dystopia is going to come from these like human-like or humanoid robots, right? Like Frankenstein with metal or, Terminator style. But her idea of it being a bot is, I think, even scarier. She goes back into it and says, for those who don't know, and apologies to those who are warily familiar, a bot really is just a piece of computer code that can do things that humans can do. Wikipedia uses bots to correct spelling and grammar on its articles. Bots can also play computer games or place gambling bets on behalf of human controllers. Notoriously, bots are now a major force on social media where they can like people and cause post comments and react to others. Bots can be programmed to tweet out insults in response to particular words, to share Facebook pages, to repeat slogans, and sow distrust. Which is just, something that we obviously know, but have we thought about it being something that's kind of a state-run game? That is scary, I think, and something that people don't really consider.
Well, look at each one of these things. You say, go back, and it says, a bot really is just a piece of code that can do things that humans can do. Wikipedia uses bots to correct spelling and grammar on its articles. I remember when first hearing the idea of bots writing articles.
Oh,
and just replacing things like AP, where it's just kind of the nut graph that you're looking for. You're looking for the who, what, where, when, why, how type stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're able to gather that information, you can do it through algorithms and other things. It can replace. Now they've had problems with it. They have problems with humans too. Every day. This is a real thing. So you look at it and say spelling, grammar, even full articles themselves. Bots play computer games. We all play.
Oh.
We play bots all the time.
Oh, and if you even think about playing the computer, I play chess against the computer all the time on my own and think around it. Yeah, I'm playing a bot.
Do you have chess.com?
I do not. I actually just play it on my own MacBook.
We should get an app.
We definitely should.
Play some chess and challenge our listeners to that, too.
We should.
And challenge those bots that are taking over the world.
We'll have to take over those bots.
See if we can get some language going with it.
Yes. This is going back into the article, though, Ann Applebaum really gets into it here. Slowly, their influence is growing. She's talking about bots again. One tech executive told me that he reckons that half of the users on Twitter are bots, created by companies that either sell them or use them to promote various causes. The Computational Propaganda Research Project, that sounds rich, at the University of Oxford has described how bots are used to promote either political parties or government agendas in 28 different countries. That would include our own.
Yeah.
They can harass political opponents or their followers, promote policies, or simply seek to get ideas into circulation.
That is honestly why. When I went to go talk to my brain doc, he said, "Don't even worry about some of these comments on Twitter that you deal with.
You may not even,
not only based on what we were talking about earlier, things to expect, as you're moving on up in the world and doing awesome things, making great strides, but also just simply the fact that you look at it and you say, man, those people might not be real."
Some of them, honestly, may not.
They might not actually be real. And
some of them are. Yeah. Some of them that we know, some of them aren't.
I always go now, I'm serious. If I see somebody post something and it's something real crazy off the wall, I'm like, it's more legible, right? More understandable and readable than the spam we get on WordPress, but not by much.
As a comedian on Twitter, I'm just very used to getting the the bot spam. Sometimes you don't even know what the responses are, because in a way you'll put some different sentences together in the algorithm that may screw it up, and it will send you some link to like a hair care product because you were talking about people not having shaved legs or however it works. It's just It's really odd the amount of spam you get from the bots as a stand-up comic because of the different things you'll talk about.
I used to get that all the time from a McCarthy bot. From a McCarthy bot for talking about socialism.
Yeah.
So anytime I talk about socialism, there was this McCarthy bot. Maybe we should try this and just post socialism. Like that's the only thing we post and see if that bot answers.
Yeah.
See what that guy's name was. It was an icon of an image of McCarthy. Man, I wish I remembered the name of that bugger.
Man.
Yeah, the name of that bot.
We're going to have to continue this conversation a little bit into after the break, just because the amount of info they have about how bots have been influencing political campaigns and different aspects of political society is overwhelming and, quite frankly, a little scary. Stick around, folks. We'll be right back with more Paleo Radio.
Love Paleo Radio? Join the club. Support our work by visiting patreon.com/Paleo Radio today.
Back to Eagle and Dragon.
I gotta say something, man. I totally messed up.
How'd you do that?
Oh, my gosh. I messed up because I had talked to somebody, a good friend of ours, actually. Talked to them about putting together something for the question of the night. And with some working behind the scenes, was supposed to begin it by saying this, that tonight's question of the night is brought to you by Mel's Bath Bombs.
Mel's Bath Bombs.
Yes, Mel's Bath Bombs.
Which we owe her a commercial, and we're still going to make.
Yes.
Mel Rice, if you're listening, we're going to make you a sweet bath bomb commercial.
Yes.
For Mel's Bath Bombs.
We have to do this, man, because just the smell of forest pine or the smell of peach and brown sugar and rosemary and pina colada, you name it. It's a whole bunch of deliciousness, and I'll tell you, we gotta get this stuff rolling. It's gonna be so great, and it smells so good. And she's actually got videos. If you go, you can find more about her online. She's actually involved with Normalized Atheism. You can find her. She's constantly tweeting our stuff, and she's the Paleo Diva, in fact, on Twitter. But you can connect with her. We'll get some information and everything and make sure that happens.
And she is an amazing rational human. And another rational human did something good for humanity when, in 1858, they invented a household item commonly used, commonly found in the house, sometimes in the kitchen, sometimes in the utility room. That is the question of the night. What is the item that was invented by Hamilton Smith in 1858? Household item.
Yeah, what was that?
616-656-1680 to call in and get it. You can get into that awesome Paleo Radio Vault.
Yes.
Take a stab at it.
Yes. And I'm
and
telling
there's
you,
no pun there. I'm not suggesting it's a knife.
I can't get my mind off of these bath bombs. I just can't.
These lovely bath bombs.
As we're going on, I'm just kind of sitting there, and as I was going over all the different fragrances and everything, and I'm like, and this stuff's made with natural oils. It softens the skin. Be cautious. This is a little note that was sent our way. It says, please be cautious. It may cause the bathtub be a little slippy.
Ooh, a little slippy.
Little slippy slips.
Tubby.
Little slipskis.
But it's still worth buying Mel's Bath Bombs. Yes.
We love you so much, Mel.
Oh, yeah,
yes,
we do.
You are a big supporter of the show. We love how you supported us over all this time now. It's been a while. And
it has.
Yes, and so we're really grateful for her and the support that she has for Paleo Radio.
And one thing, we do support her. We do not support bots. We're not a fan of the bots.
Yes, we don't support bots at all. Well, I don't know. I mean, I might have a couple of my own bots.
Your own little supporters, right? But again, this is Washington Post article by Ann Applebaum. Maybe the AI dystopia is already here, and she's talking about maybe letting go of the idea that it's Terminator and that it may just be that weird, crazy bot that's got a rebel flag and American Eagle in front of it on Twitter that's affecting your life. She's giving some certain examples of how it's affected political discourse, and it is really pretty scary. She says sympathizers of the Polish government, possibly outright Americans, launched a coordinated Twitter bot campaign with the hashtag astroturfing, not exactly a Polish word, that sought to convince Poles that anti-government demonstrators were fake, outsiders, or foreign paid
or foreigners paid to demonstrate. An investigation by the Atlantic Council's Digital Forensic Research Lab pointed out the irony. An artificial Twitter campaign has been programmed to smear a genuine social movement by calling it artificial. So a fake campaign created to make a real campaign disingenuous.
And we know that these things are all around us. What makes it hard is I think this is worse than fake news. Because this is all about most people don't even read the news anyway.
No.
Most people go through comments and read those jabs. And if they see a huge number of people, quote unquote, that are all kind of reiterating similar themes, then that is going to provide an optic to them that gives them even the impression or even the social peer pressure that that's the true thing, that that's the right thing. Or there's a lot of people who believe that. I better not say anything.
Yeah.
It gives a false impression. And that impression is huge if people are more impressionable than they are reasonable in their digestion and dissemination of information.
And I think, too, like you said, I don't think people... grab your tinfoil hats, folks. Here it comes. Here comes the doozy. It's late at night. We're competing with Ground Zero, so I'm allowed a little bit of leeway.
It's true, we are. That's actually, people driving
through. Competition.
Yeah, they have a choice. They can either listen to everything's a conspiracy or, we'll put on a hat every now and again and we'll talk about it at least. Yeah.
My hat would say that most government entities that are playing the game of electronics and technology and cyber grew wise to the fact that people stopped listening or watching cable news a long time ago and have adapted their ways of trying to get their messaging out in other aspects and avenues, which would be easily assumed to be our social media. The only reason I say that, and again, I'm not saying to be scared, folks, and go run and hide, but this is an undeniable fact. We know that government entities were involved in the dissemination of newspapers when they were hard print newspapers back in the day, that they had some strong influence on how that goes.
We know the government's involved with CNN.
Yes.
We know the government's involved with Washington Post.
And
are branches of the government.
Well, and we know the government's involved in Breitbart because it's literally in the White House.
In the White House.
You know what I mean? Like that's where we're at with this sort of thing. But the point being is that it's a scary time for that. But we can't act like other governments and entities that are trying to sway opinion in certain ways, even foreign entities, would be using these things to get certain results or just sow discontent amongst other individuals. It just seems like an easy, real low-risk, high-reward move to make. And then this is Ann Applebaum going back in. She says, no one is really able to explain the way that they all interact or what the impact of both real and artificial online campaigns might be on the way people think or form opinions. Another digital forensic research lab investigation into pro-Trump and anti-Trump bots showed the extraordinary number of groups that are involved in these dueling conversations. Some commercial, some political, some foreign. The conclusion? They're distorting the conversation, but toward what end? Nobody really knows. And I think that's the actual scariest thing about this is we don't really know the end game to this. And we don't know. I mean, we have conversations that are so intense that it's bot on bot conversations. And that's just wild to me.
Yes.
You know?
Well, and yes, that this is happening. And like we mentioned, last week, talking about Facebook, right? Talking about the conversations that go on, the kind of way that this is happening, and say, look, this is kind of a little bit out of control.
Yeah.
It kind of is. I mean, this is in a crazy way. And I said, look, it's worse than spam. For people who aren't on WordPress or any kind of platform like that, you don't even get it. Well, you do if you have an email and you go and you check your spam folder there. They do pretty good at weeding that out, that kind of thing. How do you weed that out? How do you weed out people like that?
Yeah.
Is there an algorithm that does that?
Well, and that's the thing is, how do you even know if they're people or not?
If they're people, because I know real people that have like 30 followers.
Yeah.
I know real people
me too.
that are on there that
Sure,
have 30
they're
followers.
not very active Twitter
Yep.
users, and they actually have that.
Oh, I know some who
Sometimes
are
those-
active, and they still only have 30.
Yeah, well,
they
that
really do
that
suck.
happens,
I mean,
too.
I'm very, very sad for them.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I do think that's a real thing that happens. I think the biggest worry, though, is that we assume it is Mark Twain is what this reminds me of, is just the idea that people are easily fooled, and it's easier to fool them than it is to convince them that they've been fooled. And we're social beings that rely on, like you were talking about earlier in the show, virtue signaling. That term has been used in a way that implies that we don't virtue signal towards everything that we hold as a moral value of ours, which people do, and those virtues can get manipulated and changed over time depending on who you interact with and how those interactions take place. And that can get manipulated very easily when people are actually arguing with fake people. Now, it really turns the Turing test on its head, right? For people who don't know, the Turing test is the idea of knowing if a computer is a human or not. You stand in front of a screen, and it's a bunch of judges, and these judges have to acknowledge if they believe that what's behind the screen is a person or a computer based on asking it questions. And in a lot of cases, they have, like a backstory, like it's a computer, but it's Gregor, a 9-year-old Russian boy, right, is what the computer is supposed to pretend to be. But the long story short is no artificial intelligence has passed the Turing test yet. But what we may have done is make it harder for people to distinguish what's a person or what's a robot already in our social media. So when people are asking the question if no artificial intelligence has passed the Turing test, yes, but are people being influenced by bots and by artificial intelligence already? Yes. Yes, they are. The end game is actually kind of already here. Yeah. But that's my biggest worry about all of this, really, is that I don't think we've thought about it that way. The whole thing has been, well, if it's not sentient artificial intelligence, we shouldn't have to worry. And it's like, actually, it may be that people are so bad at discerning what's real and what's not on the internet that it's not too hard to fool them if it's a computer or not. And that turns the whole thing on its head.
I think it's the interesting thing is that no giant spaceship. What if there's no giant spaceship? Nor are there armies of lifelike robots. Instead, we have created a swamp of unreality, a world where you don't know whether the emotions you're feeling are manipulated by men or machines, and where, once all news moves online, as it surely will, and I lament that fact as an asterisk, right? As jumping in on that, I'm sorry, everybody, but continuing, it will soon be impossible to know what's real and what's imagined. Isn't this the dystopia we've so long feared? And that's the thing. We're already feeling the very first tremors of this kind of a thing.
Yeah.
How many people do we know personally? How many people were reported on that these people really experienced this, where they were saying over and over, it's almost like you don't know what reality is anymore. Everything's flipped on its head. Everything's upside down. You don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
That's already starting to happen. If you look to what was causing a great amount of that confusion, people were attributing a lot of nefarious things to specific people. But I really do believe that a lot of that, including the vast exodus of a lot of subscribers even from shows, popular shows, I think a lot of those all around were bots.
I think they could have been.
I think so, too. I'm not saying that Google has clean hands on all of it. So don't sue me, amazing atheist. I still hope you come on the show, brother. Yeah.
Stick around, folks. We'll be back. Lots more Paleo Radio to come.
Now back to Joe and Jeremiah.
Welcome back, folks. This is Paleo Radio. We are the amazing show that plays on nights.
Yes.
Here in WPRR.
10 to midnight on Mondays.
Oh, yeah. In studio, kicking it, loving it.
AM, FM. I was so excited. I was talking to this guy over at the gym. I'm getting buff. I'm jihading the daylights out of fat.
Go get him.
Totally. And I'm getting ripped. And I was there, and this guy, he's like, he's like, Jeremiah, I see you all the time. He's like, what exactly is it that you do? And I just told him, I said, seriously, I host basically the greatest show on earth.
There it is.
Totally pumped about it, and I believe that. This show is amazing, and I think it's something that's absolutely necessary, especially for our tumultuous times.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a good time to have conversations.
And it's a good time not just to have conversations, but conversations with people who are literate in subject matters that they're talking about.
That helps.
That helps. Or that are equipped with the tools necessary, that actually have a toolkit, right, put together that says this is how we approach media. This is how we digest it. This is how we frame it. This is what framing is, and the like, that we aren't simply mindless consumers of media.
Yes.
And that we aren't just simply mindless peddlers of talking points either. That ain't even close to what we do.
That helps.
Oh, big time.
Helps the messaging.
It helps a little bit.
Well, what we were talking about during the break, when you were talking about technology and you were talking about how news sources, well, it was really Ann Applebaum's article, but when she was saying that news sources and news are going to eventually make their way onto online sources entirely, and you were talking about lamenting that fact, which I can understand, but I don't really have so much truck with it being a new technological advancement for us as much as I do with people assuming that they can get something for free at the same quality they got when they had to pay for it in the past.
Yes.
And that's a legitimate thing, that when people are saying, oh, media is so fragmented, it's awful, you can't get the truth, we don't know who has the resources to get to the truth or where they come from, there's no way of finding that out. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we've been under the impression for the last now probably 15 to almost 20 years that news should be free online for us to just consume in the morning without having to pay for it. And that, I believe, opens the gate to some ridiculousness.
When I went to Olivet and we were going through these classes for journalism, I remember all these magazines, all the big magazines that they had in the department were talking about the blogosphere. They were talking about Facebook. They were talking about Twitter. They were talking about, MySpace. Right, let's go there. They were talking about that. They were talking about Zanga. Right. There were a whole bunch. Blogger when it was bigger and things like that. With that, around that time, you started seeing a whole bunch of these places of record. Best way to describe it. Those are places of record. The people who work there journal things for record, and you can go to most libraries and catalog it and everything else. That started to fall apart. Institutions started to go away. In fact, there was entire websites dedicated to a graveyard of newspapers and talking about massive newspapers, a whole list of them, massive newspapers that had been around for a long time and are now completely gone. And I'll just say this real quick, is the Jackson Citizen Patriot. That's a place here in Michigan, in Jackson, Michigan. And we went there in school. We went for a field trip. And when we went in, and I've told this before, but labor the point, go in, and the editor there is not very happy, pretty bummed out. It happened to be my first field trip, and I was kind of bummed that this guy's bummed. It was I'm like, what's this all about? I'm pumped, I'm kind of doughy-eyed about this whole thing and bushy-tailed. I want to do this. But this guy's bummed, and he takes us up on the second floor, and we look out over top of this factory floor, and it's got that outline that they have around bodies when people die. Ooh. But there weren't bodies, though. It was just it was what it looked like. It was reminiscent. And these outlines, it was huge, and it was empty, completely empty. And he pointed out there, and he said, that outline used to be where the printing press was. And there were tons of people scurrying about in here every single day. They're gone. Completely toast. That place is hit. You go in, there's like a handful of people, like hardly anybody. And it's all kind of smushed together. They got people who got a little area over there where they got somebody that's kind of sitting down waiting to do video stuff for the video feed because they're converging. That's smart business. But now it's a newsroom that looks nothing like what you see in movies. It's a sad scene. Yeah. And it's gone instead to an electronic medium, and it's gone to a place where it doesn't require, and this is maybe risky to say, but it doesn't require any kind of expertise whatsoever. It doesn't require any kind of training or specialization whatsoever. And while there are amazing exceptions to the rule, it's generally better to have that training and that education, even in ethics and law. Just basic journalistic ethics and law, media ethics and law, communication theory. These things are really important to have.
Yes.
And those things we complain about certain elements of institutions, and I do too, of mainstream stuff. But at the same time, I think that it is a big mistake to just assume that because we have criticisms of that therefore that you have this kind of de facto thing going on that alternative media sites, just because they use the phrase alternative media and virtue signal each other, by the way, that makes them not just authentic and raw, but somehow reliable.
That's you nailed it there for me. My biggest contention is I think that mainstream media, or just the way that media has been going in general, has not been a good thing. It's not been a good thing for any of us in terms of just how we're getting this random come-uppery of different ideas and stuff. But most importantly, what you're saying is, how can you merit the new ideas that are coming? I don't have a problem with having a different version of mainstream media sources, as in I don't think cable TV is a good medium to be relying on to get your news. This 24/7, if it bleeds, it leads, scary, wary, it's all coming after you style is just not my cup of tea. But I do think that whatever medium we switch to, it's got to be one that's credentialed. Because my biggest worry, like you just brought up, is that we've got people that are just woefully unprepared to have these conversations. Not only have the conversations, but have massive followers. And
Look at Cernovich.
Yes.
Look at Cernovich.
Yes.
Cernovich is an interesting cat. You know, he has scoops, but scoops give an interesting impression. You can give a scoop to somebody who is not necessarily very educated on the idea of even things like media theory.
Yes.
You know, take, for example, you got a guy who he pontificates on the regular about media, and he's got his own theories, and some of his theories are, take this one, for example, he's come out and said this, that we need to get rid of media theory, the history of it. It needs to just go away. We need a brand new one, clean slate, wipe it off. And I'm like, dude, it's called data, bro.
Yeah.
It's called questions and peer review. It's not just people sitting around theorizing and saying, I think this, no, I think that. You got it way wrong.
Well, I think that's what the opinion is, though, is that there is... We have a problem right now, and we've had one, like you're talking about, the slow-moving problems we've had in the country. Another one we've had is this creeping anti-intellectualism that people actually kind of wear as a badge of honor and feel that why even worry about things like media theory or philosophy? I've been in this camp before. Hey, I'm not gonna spare myself of this criticism. I've been disingenuous of philosophical claims before, with the idea of saying, why waste my time with it? Now, that was a stupid thing to have said when I was younger, and obviously I've changed my mind henceforth. But it's just interesting to think about that there are people that can be thought leaders that really haven't proven their weight for their thought. And that scares me. And don't get me wrong, I think it just depends on the angles that you come from. If you look at even people like you and I, combined 10, we're approaching 13 to 14. Actually, now we can almost say almost 15 years of combined radio experience between the two of us. It's a lot of work, right? It doesn't make us experts on everything. We know what we're doing. We know about we know about communication theory. We know about communication because that's what we went to school for.
And I went to school for, and I know a significant amount of things pertaining to certain religions.
Sure.
Like I was trained in that as well. Like I went to school specializing in doctrinal issues and apologetics. Specifically, when I talk about apologetics, specifically Reformed apologetics, and even more specific still would be presuppositional, going to Bonson Theological Seminary. But like we have. That's the thing. Like we talk about issues, whether it's religion, whether it's media, whether it's political science. That these are issues that we've studied.
Yeah.
Yes.
But also, too, we are people that when there are areas that we don't know of, we don't know them well, There are areas that we always ask for more information on. We admit to people that no, we're not the arbiters of fact in this area. We don't know it to be true. This is just our opinion. We make that claim. But the issue is, I think, bigger, that there are a lot of groups out there that have been given rise because of how disingenuous people are to the value of something like a mainstream media, because everyone wants to dog on it and very little people see the value in it, and I can somewhat agree. They are opening the path to an alternative form of media that actually is held to a lower standard. When does InfoWars have to retract statements to save credibility? And although we can talk bad about CNN, and I think we should, and MSNBC and Fox and these cable outlet, cable news shows and everything, they have to be held to a standard of credibility. Guys like Eric Bolling can lose his job on Fox News for things that are going on right now. I don't know if it's true or not with all. I believe it to be true with what's going on, but we'll see. But he can lose his job at Fox News for this. New York Times had to retract the statement about the 17 intelligence agencies.
Yeah, but Kurt Eichenwald is still a player in the game. And but that's the thing. There's
but
institutions.
It's at least it's there. The institution is having a conversation about it on the wall. It is different than having this idea of I trudge forward. I'm not held accountable by anything because I have the support of just the group behind me. And don't get me wrong, even the way that we format our show can somewhat be described as that. But we also we love talking to people who know more about the subjects than we do. It's a good thing. We want more people to interview and to have come in and educate us about things we need more help with. Well, that's different than being a guy like Cernovich, or that's different than being, I'm not sure who it would be, a left-wing person on YouTube or something like that. It's a different way of thinking about it. But my overall concern with everything is that we don't have people being held to meritable standards, which concerns me a great deal.
Which I think is another plus for the show. And I'll pitch it like crazy, but we source across the spectrum. It's good to get those scholars from different perspectives to talk, because sometimes there's blind spots. It's not always malicious. Broaden your horizon.
For debates, interviews, or speeches, contact PaleoRadioShow at gmail.com.
You love to hate 'em, you hate to love 'em. You just can't get enough of 'em, you sick freaks. Paleo Radio's on the air.
All right, we have question of the day. Question of the night. It is a question of the day. The whole day, I think, on Monday for us is dedicated to preparing and getting in a zone for Paleo Radio. In fact, I got to say this, man. Before the show began, we decided we were going to get everything organized and everything together for the entire day. We were going to prepare food and make a to-do out of it. So we did that. We went to the gym. I did some running. I ran about a half an hour.
Nice.
And then I did some lifting, for heavy lifting, pretty hard, breathed pretty heavy. And did that manly stuff for about 20 minutes, then went downstairs. I take it back. It's not just manly. There were some chicks there that could seriously outdo me a bazillion times over. So that was let me take that back. I'll pedal that one back real hard. But then after that, went swimming. Went through some really cool little rivers that guide you through with stuff and fountains and all that jazz. And then after all of it, got to go and sit in a hot tub. And then eat some tuna fish sandwich.
Wow, that sounds like an epic
Not
epic
in the
time.
hot tub. Not in the hot tub. I've eaten a tuna fish sandwich. Was it a tuna fish sandwich that I was eating in the shower one time?
Oh my goodness!
What was I eating? What was I eating?
In the shower?
Man, I've eaten some sandwiches in the shower before.
I believe you. I believe it to be true.
You got to keep it out of the water, man. It ain't right.
Quite a battle.
It ain't right. But hey, it would not be right if we kept this guy on the line any longer. JD is calling from GR. He's listening on FM. I know who this is.
Yes,
and he believes that he has the answer to our question of the day. Question of the night.
I have a guess.
Yeah,
I have a guess.
Fire away,
and
JD.
I have to say, Jeremiah, I cannot get enough of you. But that thing about the tuna kind of turned me off a little bit.
Was it the tuna?
So
was it the tuna in the shower or just the tuna? Because I can eat egg salad in the shower.
In the shower.
I think adding the shower makes it worse,
don't you? Who does not
you?
belong in the bathroom?
I think wet bread is just not a good look.
No.
Anyways, that has
Toasted
neither
grinders.
here nor there.
Yeah.
So, am I on the radio?
Yes,
Oh, you
you're
bet
right.
you
You're
are.
Oh my
live
God,
right
I'm on
now.
the radio.
You're on right
wow,
now.
Yes.
This is great.
Yeah.
Okay. So, this is totally a guess. I didn't Google it. My guess comes from the name, the first name. So I'm guessing that it's some kind of mixing device.
That's close. Do you want to be more specific?
A hand mixer.
No.
This is not a hand mixer, but you're close.
Oh.
That's not
Yeah.
it, man. I can't. I
All
don't want to
right.
give too much specifics away, because it's.
Should we give one hint? Because we're running out of time. We got,
It is a mi- it is a
This is
mixer
the last
of sorts.
segment.
The
Yes.
This is
thing-
the last segment.
The thing that's throwing me is it's used in utility rooms, and I don't know what that would be.
Okay.
Or
Kitchen,
or side. Basically, it could be a side room. And we were actually here's a hint. We could say that in modern day times, it's not this type of household item is not necessarily in a kitchen or in a utility room anymore. It could be in the basement. It could be upstairs. People put it it's everywhere, but a lot of houses have it. Almost all of them.
Is it like a bowl mixer?
Nah,
That's
it's
close.
all right, man.
Oh,
But
man.
you know what?
That's so
It's
close,
okay.
JD. Man, I'm telling you.
We gotta have some kind of a prize for people who gave it their darndest.
Well,
because that was a fancy question. That was a tough one.
You get the free prize of love, JD, because we
Yes.
both love you to death, brother.
We'll send it by a smoke signal.
When am I going to be able to come over and visit you?
Oh.
Very soon.
Oh,
Okay.
very soon. We got to
Text
warm
me.
up that fire. We got to get some of
Right.
that hot cocoa, that licorice.
My schedule is extremely busy right now, so
All
text
right.
me when you're available.
We will.
All right.
Thank you
Fantastic.
for the call, JD.
Sure.
You're
Yes.
the man.
All right.
Yes.
I feel badly. We've actually gotten some people online, Johnny Pike, Ronnie Goss. Both of them said that they called the number, and when they called, it went to voicemail.
Well, that's unfortunate.
So I
Try to have them call again. We've got 8 more minutes. If you guys are listening, you can still call in 616-656-1680. Around 11:57, 11:58, we will quit answering those calls because we need to close out the show. But there still is a window here, about 5 minutes, if someone wants to try to join the combo. You can definitely do that. In the meantime, man, we've got a couple topics. Is there any that trip your trigger?
Any that tripped my trigger, man, we had a whole bunch of them that I thought were pretty good.
We do.
The war America can't win.
I
mean,
like
that's
that one.
that's in my blood a little bit, man. You know, that talking about anti-war type stuff, and I don't want to use that term too loosely either. I don't want to mislead people into the idea that I am completely principally opposed to the next war already. There's a reason I didn't buy their shirt. Over at Anti-War. I love the people over there. I still want to interview the people over there. We need to get them on. They've actually reached out in the
We
past.
definitely do. That'd be great.
Kind of like Justin Amash. But the war America can't win, how the Taliban are regaining control in Afghanistan. The Taliban control places like Helmand, where the U.S. and U.K. troops fought their hardest battles, pushing the drive toward peace and progress into reverse. This is over. Where is this, buddy? Lashkar
This was the Guardian.
Yeah, over at The Guardian. Soon Rasmussen.
Yes.
Yes.
And Lashkar Gah.
Yeah, I like that, man. And
Yes.
Lashkar Gah, I mean, it's just a cool, yeah. For more than 15 years, women's empowerment has been claimed as a central pillar of Western efforts in Afghanistan. Yet in Helmand, adult women are almost entirely invisible, even in the city. They're the property of their family, and a few are able to work or seek higher education, independent medical care, or even justice. And if the advancement of women's rights is moved at a glacial pace in places such as Helmand, the process toward peace has slid backward. Okay, you got these two main towns, Lashkar Gah and Gereshk, are among a handful of places in the province not under the Taliban control. And speaking of another person not under the Taliban control, because we're running out of time, we'll go ahead and just quickly interrupt that. Is Ronnie in Kalamazoo listening to Paleo Radio? What are you listening on, FM?
An app.
You're listening on an app. All right,
Lovely.
wonderful. So you're tuned into Paleo Radio on an app. You have an answer to our question of the night. You're not under the control of the Taliban. So what is the answer to the question that we've put out there? You want us to rephrase it for you? You want us to put it out there again?
Sure.
Okay.
The question was,
What household item was built by Hamilton Smith in 1858? They say it's a common household item that has been in the kitchen or the utility room, but I have now since said that it can be moved around the house. What say you, Ronnie?
Is it the washer?
It is. It's the washing machine.
Yes.
Oh, Hamilton Smith created the old washing machine.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Fantastical, dude.
A big round of applauses here. We've got four hands of clapping.
There we go. Yes.
Yeah, four hands of clapping, and we got
emphatic.
one hand clapping over in the corner.
Yes. But congratulations. You get to take a look inside the Paleo Radio Vault and get a look at all those awesome books and cool Anchorman cards and Spaceballs VHSs and all the other weird, wild, wacky things we have in there.
We might even put some vinyl records out there. Even if people don't have record players, sometimes it's just really cool and pretty swag.
Yeah.
To go ahead and have one.
Yeah, it might be.
We have some really cool ones, too.
Congratulations, Ronnie.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to put you on hold and have you talk with Angela in the other room so she can get your information, and we'll be able to let you look at all the awesome things we have to offer you, and we'll be able to have you pick one and send it your way.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yes, and thank you for listening to Paleo Radio. We're super duper duper grateful. Yep. So you got him on hold. And again, listen, every single week we have another question of the night. And the question of the night, if you win, just like Ronnie did just now, and like JD hoped to, okay, and we love you, JD. You did a great job. You're a wonderful guy, and seriously, our hearts, we really are sending them via smoke signal right now. Look out your window. But it gives you a chance, just like Ronnie's going to have, to jump headfirst into our prize vault and just to kind of swim around in the glory of all things that we've put into this. And this is immense, Joe. This actually kind of reflects the fullness and the breadth and the depth of what we are here to have such a vast array of different topics and kind of some of them seminal works even in those fields. And so to say, not first edition's old school. I mean, you're not going to get, I keep that stuff in a special vault, But you're not only that, but you get rookie cards, stuff like what is David Robinson's rookie card in there? I think so. Maybe even Bill Lambier. I think we might even have a Bill Lambier rookie card. And if people are telling me there's not somebody in Grand Rapids right now who says Bill Lambier and their ears perk up.
I like me a Bill Lambier card.
How can I win that?
Damn right you do.
Yes. Two different things. Really, you need to listen every week. I mean, that's just the first thing. As your attorney, I would strongly advise you, in fact, to plug yourself into something to just get it intravenously. Just constant drip of Paleo Radio. The other thing is to go find us on Facebook, man. Go find us on Facebook. We're verified. We've got a check mark. It's super amazing. And you can keep up with all the different questions that we've got going on.
And like we said, we love to interact on Facebook. We like interacting on Twitter. We like just to hear from you guys what you guys think. We also will take, if people send us stuff, people that send us articles, we will read them. If we have the time, we'll put them in there. If they're articles that we know have good merit and are worthwhile, we will definitely share them on the show and discuss them. So we really kindly ask you guys, if you're interested in having us cover a topic or read more into a topic that you're interested in, send us a tweet, send us a message on Facebook, post it on the wall on the Paleo Radio board, and we will see it. We will give you an answer.
I want to finish this up real quick, man, because we're running out of time. I think we got about a minute, not even that.
Yes.
Talking about this article about how the Trump administration has yet to define a strategy for Afghanistan and how the U.S. was expected to have approved the deployment of about 4,000 additional troops to Afghanistan by now, the first surge since the withdrawal began in 2011, but the administration's torn. Okay, Trump even wondered why we've been there for 17 years. That's not an unjustified thing either.
It's not.
No.
But also, too, with them leaving, they've been dealing with the repercussions of us being gone, and it's had a blowback effect, and just round and round we go, which is why we've always said on the show not to get involved in foreign affairs, not to get involved in foreign entanglements, because you can get in perpetual states of war.